The chair recognizes Justin O'Donnell, and he supports the bill. 2 minutes. I like you, Justin, already. 2 minutes. For the good of my committee, we've been sitting here since 9 this morning. Me, 7, 8 o'clock. But go ahead. But
Honorable members of the committee, thank you for hearing testimony from myself and others today. My name is Justin O'Donnell. I'm from Manchester. And some of you may know me. I've worked with some of you. I've worked with many members of this House on legislation and activism in the past. I've also worked against some of you and against many members of this House. Some of you on both different sides, depending on the issue. I come to you here today on an issue, not on partisanship, not on a side. I came today not knowing what I wanted to say, just where I stood. And Representative Baldessaro has asked us not to be repetitive, so I just want to take a moment to comment on Representative Deshaies' remarks earlier regarding the Constitution. He spoke a lot about the U.S. Constitution and its ramifications. However, I feel compelled to agree with and speak to what Lysander Spooner wrote in No Treason, Constitution of No Authority. And he says, "But whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, or it has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. What we are discussing is a measure to allow the people of New Hampshire a voice in whether or not they would reject subservience to a document that has failed to protect their rights." He also insinuated that you could be considered to be in rebellion simply by voting in favor of putting this question on the ballot. Well, to be frank, the line between sedition and patriotism is fine and often blurry. It is the duty of those people who call themselves patriots to oppose the expansion of overreach of tyrannical governments at every step. And when standing up for your individual sovereignty crosses the line between patriotism and treason, it's not you that's gone too far, it's the government that you're opposing that has overstepped its bounds. I urge you to pass this measure and allow the decision to be made not by this body, but by the people of this state directly. And to address a question Representative LaBranch had asked earlier in the day, why don't we pursue a measure to allow people to simply have a referendum on the ballot? We've tried, and this body refused. And state reps in this body testified against a constitutional amendment 2 years ago that would allow citizens of New Hampshire to petition a referendum onto the ballot, and the arguments made were that the people were too stupid and uninformed to be that directly involved in the legislative process, and that this body was loath to cede that authority back to the people. So it was this body and this House of Representatives that kept that power from the people, and that's why we pursue it now as a constitutional amendment. Thank you. I want to wrap up if anyone has questions.
thank you, Justin. You have a question?
Well, can I have that testimony? Or have you sent that? I'm sorry, thank
I've
you.
been writing it as we've been going. I'll send you an email.
Can you take that and email
Yes.
that to our committee?
Yes.
That would really be great. Thank you.
Question. Representative Moffett has a question for you.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question, and I'll preface it by just saying this has been very, very interesting for me to get a better sense of how a lot of folks are looking at things. So the wheels are turning in my head, but I want to ask you, and maybe somebody else can speak to this, if New Hampshire were to become independent, what other countries in Europe, who would you see this new sovereign in New Hampshire aligning with or connecting with, or allying, or not necessarily allying? I know, who would this new entity connect with outside of the United States? Is there a country that would have a similar type of political philosophy that this new sovereign New Hampshire would connect to? I'm just wondering.
Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Monaco. There are small nations scattered across Europe that have governed themselves independently for centuries without a larger empire to protect them. There is no sense to an argument that secession or the breakup of the United States need be a violent breakup or anything other than an amicable national divorce. Should the United States break up and sever, whether it's just New Hampshire or New Hampshire, Texas, California, Alaska, any of the other states considering secession as part of the national divorce, there's nothing to say that a compact between those states and a mutual defense treaty and mutual trade treaties couldn't be reached in an amicable and peaceful manner as part of the discussion process and negotiation process afterward. We saw with Brexit that that when the United Kingdom wanted to leave the European Union, a union very similar to the United States, where sovereign states joined in an economic and defense pact, that those negotiations were approached peacefully, while contentiously, peacefully. And the United Kingdom was allowed to leave. And even when the United Kingdom left, one of their own provinces, Scotland, decided they wanted to have their own referendum to leave the United Kingdom and go back, which failed. But it showed that a peaceful process can occur. And those processes happened through negotiation and talks and public involvement, not through backdoor deals and closed room bureaucratic processes.
Follow-up comment real quick. Yeah, so again, the wheels are turning. I'm thinking about borders and tariffs and what if other entities, countries put tariffs on our products, or would we put tariffs? I mean, there's no answer tonight. You've just got us thinking about this in ways we haven't thought about it before, and we'll have more questions later. But anyway, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Justin. I don't see any other question.
Email that. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that was a good